Meeting come to order, please. Roll call. Members will press your present button, please. Which one? Is that done? Are we there? Linnea, we're not working right now. Not yet. It won't confirm.
You're confirmed. Here.
Is that done?
Paul and Steve. Confirm, Steve.
There you go.
Are we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Record the roll. Thank you, ma'am. Wow. Staff announcements, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Has several announcements. First of all, you have in front of you a letter that y'all received, and this is by way of reminder regarding statement of interest from the Tennessee Ethics Commission that all planning commissioners now have to fill out. I believe this form is due. When is this form due?
31st.
Yes, at the end of the month, but we sent this to y'all so you have not only a reminder, but you also have the website you can go to if you happen to mislay your form that had been previously provided by them. Secondly, we'll have the first public involvement meeting for the Grassland small area study on January 31st. It'll be at the Grassland Middle School cafeteria. It'll begin at 6:30. Thirdly, we have one withdrawal, and that would be item 21, which would be, I believe, the final plat review for the Sparkman Large Lot Easement subdivision. You also had in your package the traffic study guidelines. Just wanted to remind you all to take a look at that as we discuss this later tonight. And finally, we have two requests for non-agenda items. The first of these comes from the county attorney, and it has to do with Grove Park Addition. And the second request comes from the developer of Vista Subdivision, Mr. Mills. His preliminary plat, will expire next month, and he has asked that preliminary plat be considered tonight.
Under those two agenda items, we need to vote on both of those.
Well, we just need to see whether we got objections or not.
Any objection to Grove Park Addition release of default under old business? Please say so. Anyone? And the second addition was Bell Vista, excuse me.
Section 3 preliminary
Section
plat
3
renewal.
preliminary plat. This renewal of the preliminary plat has been reviewed by staff. Anyone? We'll add Bell Vista at the end of the agenda. Grove Park will be taken under old business, if that's okay. Anybody? Everybody okay with that? The next agenda item is consent agenda. I'm sorry, I skipped the minutes. Minutes of December 15, 2012. Any corrections? Pardon? Okay. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Prepare to vote. Vote now. Record the vote. The motion carries. Thank you. Under old business, Grove Park Addition, Section 1, release of default. Council?
business report, and it was not in your packet because I needed to wait until after Monday's county commission meeting in order to prepare it. I'm not going to read the whole thing because we've been through these facts over and over and over again. But just to bring you up to date, the roads in Grove Park Addition were recommended for acceptance on the county road list by the Highway Commission at their meeting in January, and then the Board of County Commissioners on Monday night accepted the roads onto the county road list. So as a result of that, there's no reason to have a surety for the RDE for this section, and therefore there's no longer a reason for a default because the surety is no longer required. But we can't release the default. The Planning Commission has the authority to do that. So if you release this section from default, then a release will be placed on the Register of Deeds office, and those folks that still hold lots in that section can once again pull building permits. The recommendation is that you release the default for this section.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? This is voice vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Consent agenda. Anyone wish to pull an item for separate discussion, please say so now. Otherwise, we'll take it as a whole. Anyone? Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Begin with item 3, second edition at Legends Ridge, maintenance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control, $100,000. Recommendation, extended current amount for a period of 6 months. Item 4, additional Legends Ridge, section 3, maintenance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control, $8,000. Recommendation, release the bond. Item 5, Blackhawk, section 2, maintenance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control, $60,000. Recommendation, extended current amount for a period of 6 months. Item 6, Blackhawk, section 3, maintenance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control, $50,000. Recommendation, extended current amount for a period of 6 months. Item 7, Blackhawk, section 4, maintenance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control, $15,000. Recommendation, extended current amount for a period of 6 months. Item 8, Bonnie's Barnyard, maintenance bond for landscaping, $14,200. Recommendation, release the bond. Item 9, Chardonnay, performance bond for road, section 3 rather, performance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control, $331,000. Recommendation, extended current amount for a period of 6 months. Item 10, Durham Manor, maintenance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control, $210,000. Recommendation, release the bond. Item 11, Hopewell Ridge, maintenance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control, $60,000. Recommendation, extended current amount for a period of 6 months. Item 12, Kings Chapel, section 2A, maintenance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control, $114,000. Recommendation, extended current amount for a period of 6 months. Item 13, Silver Stream Farm, section 3, maintenance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control, $95,000. Recommendation, review this bond at the March 2013 meeting. And item 14, Silver Stream Farm, section 8, performance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control, $115,000. Recommendation, convert to maintenance amount of $40,000 and extend for a period of 1 year.
Thank you, sir. Any questions on the consent? Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Prepare to vote. Vote now. Recorded vote. Motion carries.
It said you're absent.
Thank you. Next agenda item is public hearing. Item 15, site plan and conditional use review for Hosford Lawn Care, residential business on 5.57 acres located at 4487 Murfreesboro Road in the 4th voting district. Staff?
The applicant is requesting approval of a residential business for a lawn care business to be operated and owned by her son on her property. The parcel in question is 5.57 acres in size, and its zoning under the 1988 ordinance was suburban estate, which allows residential businesses to be approved by the Planning Commission as a conditional use on lots larger than 5 acres. The equipment used in the business will be stored in the 572 square foot garage with a trailer stored next to the garage. The size of the garage is less than 75% of the size of the house as required by section 4520M of the 1988 zoning ordinance. Existing vegetation is sufficient to screen the trailer from the road and adjacent parcels. A 24 square foot area of the house will be used for preparing bills to send to customers. The business owner will be the only person involved in the business. The applicant is not proposing any commercial lighting and is not proposing to have a sign. The Department of Sewage Disposal Management has approved the request. Vulcan performance standards have been met. The site plan is in order and staff recommends approval with the following stipulations. 1, all equipment and vehicles used in the business shall be stored in the garage as indicated in attachment 15-1 or beside the garage and screened from view of the road and neighboring properties. Completion of an affidavit of compliance to ensure continued adherence to section 4520M of the 1988 Williamson County zoning ordinance and the applicant's letter of intent.
Questions of staff? Public hearing, I'm sorry. Anyone in the audience wish to make a comment on this agenda item, you're invited to do so now. If you would come to the podium to make your comment, give us your name and address, we would appreciate it. Anyone? Last call? We'll close the public hearing on this agenda item. Thank you. Mr. Crohan?
Just to clear up in my mind, item 1 on the, where all equipment and vehicles in the business shall be stored in the garage as indicated. It says, or beside the garage. Now, we're just talking about the vehicle and the trailer, not all equipment, is that correct?
The equipment will be in the garage and the trailer will be parked beside the garage.
Because this reads kind of like they could have equipment outside, and I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yeah, equipment can only be in the garage.
Other questions? Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Prepare to vote. Vote now. Record the vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 16, continuing the public hearing, site plan and conditional use review for the mixed commercial center for the Lucy Covington property on 4.95 acres located at 2121 Hillsborough Road in the 9th voting district. Staff?
In October of 2009, this body granted approval for a mixed commercial center located on the Lucy Covington property to Callaway Boxwood in order to allow the use of an existing 1,080 square foot building as an office, storage area, and garden center. A new applicant, the Mulch Company, is now requesting approval to expand that mixed commercial center to include the mulch business and a second landscaping business in addition to the previously approved Callaway Boxwoods Landscaping and Garden Center. Second landscaping business is currently in violation, and this request will remedy said violation. As there will be more than one use located on the property, this use is classified as a mixed commercial center by the 1988 zoning ordinance and requires approval by this body as a conditional use. Property in question, which is comprised of 4 lots totaling approximately 5 acres in size, is located on Hillsborough Road at the southern edge of the Grassland community. According to the site plan, the Mulch Company is proposing several piles of mulch stacked a maximum of 16 feet high in the center of the property. These piles will not be visible from Hillsborough Road. The existing 1,213 square foot building will be utilized as an office and location where customers will place their orders before proceeding to the mulch piles to pick up their purchase. The second landscaping company stores trucks and other materials on the property and utilizes an existing accessory structure for additional storage. All items are stored to the rear of the property and are not visible from the street. A portion of this business has encroached onto the adjoining property, which is zoned suburban estate, and a zoning district which the use is not permitted. The site plan indicates the gravel area that is located in the SC district will be removed and reseeded. This will remedy the current zoning violation. Barriers will be utilized by the applicant to ensure no future encroachments occur. Site plan indicates that the ingress and egress will be arranged to provide for a singular access point from the subject property thereby creating a defined location for vehicular access, which the site had previously been lacking. The applicant is in the process of receiving approval from the Tennessee Department of Transportation for the reconfigured point of access, and evidence that approval has been granted from TDOT for the use of this new access point shall be required before operations for the additional businesses can commence. Water is provided by the City of Franklin, and this site utilizes on-site septic for wastewater disposal. The Williamson County Department of Sewage Disposal Management has reviewed and approved this request. Bulk, performance, and landscaping standards have been met. Site plan is in order, and staff recommends approval with the continuance of the stipulations of the October 2009 approval for Callaway Boxwood and the following additional stipulations. Number 1, complete an affidavit of compliance to ensure continued adherence to Division 4520W of the Williamson County Zoning Ordinance and the approved site plan. 2, any new signage or alteration of the existing signage must be approved per ordinance requirements. Number 3, prior to operation of the mulch company commencing, approval from TDOT must be obtained for the reconfigured access point onto Hillsborough Road. Number 4, there shall be no storage or disposal of any form of debris from job sites on the property in question. Number 5, execution of a stormwater maintenance agreement for proposed stormwater improvements. And number 6, issuance of a land disturbance permit.
Thank you, sir. Anyone in the audience wish to make a comment on the agenda item, we'll open it for public hearing at this time. Anyone? Is the applicant here? Okay, I was just asking. Thank you. I had a question. I'll ask you in a minute. Anybody have a question of staff? Anyone wish to make a comment? We'll close the public hearing. Thank you. Questions of staff? Comments? Jack?
I've got a couple questions. On item 3, stipulation 3, talks about prior to operation, the mulch company commencing, comma, approval from TDOT must be obtained. And then up in the second paragraph on the back page, it's also stating that it needs to be obtained from TDOT. But should there be language in there that it must be reconfigured before they open? I mean,
TDOT will approve the access point, and prior to commencing operations, they'll begin to reconfigure it, and by the time that it's reconfigured will be when they open up for business.
so will we give them a permit of some type? I mean, they would need to reconfigure that entrance and exit way?
Yes, sir, that's correct, and then we'll give them an approved zoning certificate in order to commence operations for the mulch company.
Okay, and then looking at the aerial view and also the plat that was given to us on that same entrance and exit way, it's hard to distinguish. I mean, they've got that kind of an entrance and exit. If I'm familiar with the property, there's a real wide area there, so they're just going to take that down?
Yes, sir, they're going to take the wide entrance, if you're facing the property, the entrance to the left that you're considering the wide one will be shrunk down to do three lanes, two for to go right and left out of the property and one to come in.
Okay.
The large area will then be burned, so there will be no more access points at that wide entrance. It'll just be those 3 lanes.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Could you come up, please, sir? Introduce yourself.
I'm Enoch Gerald with Huddleston Steel Engineering, representing Ms. Covington and Mr. Tony Manuel.
Okay, the question I had, are y'all grinding the mulch on site? Are you hauling in mulch, or what are you doing?
He's hauling in mulch. Mr. Manuel has a large facility in Nashville, and he'll be bringing in different type mulch different times of the year.
So there's no grinding on site?
No, sir.
Okay. That was the question I had. Any other questions of the applicant? Jack?
If memory serves me correct, I know we've got a similar business across the street. Now, it's backed up to a residential subdivision, and we put limits on operating hours on that, are there those type of limits on this? Because he was unloading trucks at all hours of the night.
Do we have anybody in the vicinity over there?
Not on that side of the street, but
If I may, it's the same company. It's the mulch company, and he's moving from across the street over to here.
oh, okay. So is he gonna close across the street?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. All right.
Other questions?
That's all.
Anyone else? Any other thoughts? Motion? Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Prepare to vote. Vote now. Record the vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Continuing public hearings, agenda item 17, amendment to the 2013 Williamson County zoning ordinance regarding conservation subdivisions in Hamlet zoning district. Staff?
On May 14th, 2012, the Board of County Commissioners adopted the update to the zoning ordinance and official zoning map and established an effective date of January 1, 2013. Following that adoption, County Commissioner Kathy Danner received comments related to permitting the use of conservation subdivisions in the Hamlet zoning district. Conservation subdivisions are generally the favored form of residential development because they generally result in greater amounts of open space, enhanced natural resource protection, and lower infrastructure costs. Conservation subdivisions were not initially included as a permitted use in the Hamlet zoning district because it did not appear that there would be sufficient water and sewer infrastructure to support said uses. However, due to comments and a citizen request to allow conservation subdivisions in the Hamlet zoning district, Commissioner Danner asked that amendments be drafted permitting this form of development in the event that sufficient water and sewer infrastructure becomes available to serve such uses. These amendments are attached to this report along with the resolution adopting these amendments. After conducting a public hearing, should the Planning Commission find that the amendments are in the best interests of the citizens of Williamson County, then a recommendation for adoption of these amendments to the Board of County Commissioners would be in order.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll open for public hearing again. Anyone wishing to make a comment on this agenda item is invited to do so at this time.
Gerald Howerton in the Kirkland community, and I was just wondering how this would affect our taxes. Would it make any difference at all in property taxes?
You're going to have to help me out in what respect?
In raising the taxes or on the property, would the Hamlet...
Because it's zoned differently?
Because it's zoned different.
No, sir.
No change in taxes.
Kathy Danner, 513 Brennan Lane, and I can assure you I wouldn't be supporting anything that would raise taxes. I just humbly ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Last call. We'll close the public hearing on this agenda item. Questions of council regard to this agenda item? Anyone? None?
Say, but if you would like,
The motion
the
would
motion would
read,
be recommend the adoption of it by the county commissioners.
there you go. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? I hear none. Prepare to vote. Vote now. Record the vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Continuing public hearings, agenda item 8, excuse me, item 18, amendment to the 2013 Williamson County zoning ordinance regarding property owner notification of map amendments. Staff?
On May 14th, 2012, the Board of County Commissioners adopted the update to the zoning ordinance and official zoning map and established an effective date of January 1, 2013. Following that adoption, County Commissioner Kathy Danner noted that she had received several comments from citizens related to the type of notice received when a property is subject to a map amendment. As a result of these comments and suggestions, this resolution has been drafted to clarify that if a property is the subject of a map amendment, then in addition to the statutory requirement of posting notice of the amendment in the newspaper, that the property owner of that subject property will receive mailed written notice as well. This resolution proposes an amendment that clarifies this change in the notification table and is attached hereto as attachment 18.2. After conducting the public hearing, should the Planning Commission find that the amendments are in the best interest of the citizens of Williamson County, then a recommendation for adoption of this amendment to the Board of County Commissioners would be in order.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll open for public hearing one more time. You're invited to come forward on this agenda item if you have a comment to make. Anyone? Last call? We'll close the public hearing. Thank you. Questions of council? Jack?
I've got one. Give me an example of a map amendment. I mean, what precipitates that? What?
Well, it can be brought by a county commissioner or a planning commissioner or staff or a request of the property owner. But for instance, when we just did this last rezoning, it's basically saying if you're going to rezone this property from, say, suburban estate to suburban using the old zoning districts, then that particular property owner would receive notice that there's an action to be considered by the Planning Commission and then the county commissioners to rezone their property from one zoning district to another.
But that would also, if I was a developer and we're going to buy a farm and build a subdivision with a strip center or something, that a zoning change.
It wouldn't necessarily be a
Would
zoning
that be a
change
map
if that
amendment?
use was already permitted in that zone.
But if it wasn't, then it
Then
was.
that property owner would have to request that the property be rezoned from one zoning district to another that would allow that.
And that would be a map amendment.
That would be a map amendment,
Okay.
correct?
And then if it's, I guess, if the county commission, I mean, if the planning commission didn't approve that, then it would go to the Board of Zoning Appeals?
No, it's just like if we, like this, if we amend the text, what would happen is we'd give the public notice, it would come to the Planning Commission for either a recommendation or not, but ultimately, the county commission is who approves rezones and text amendments.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, would adjoining property owners also be notified? Would adjoining property owners also be notified of this? Contiguous one would.
Contiguous adjoining.
Okay.
Other questions? Motion to forward to the, go ahead.
Exactly what she said.
I thought that would be your motion.
Yeah.
You good with that?
Yes, sir.
Is there a second? Second. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Prepare to vote. Vote now. Record the vote. Whoops. Paul, you're not in. Hit it with a hammer. Record the vote. Motion carries. Thank you. That concludes the public hearings. Agenda item 19, non-residential site plans. Non-residential site plan review for Arrington Vineyard Rural Retreat on 20 acres located off Cox Pike in the 5th voting district. Staff?
A preliminary site plan for this proposed wedding and event venue was approved at the March 2012 meeting. The applicant is now requesting final site plan approval for this use, which is located on a 20-acre site at the corner of Cox Road and Patton Road. At the February 2012 meeting, this body approved the site plan for a non-traditional wastewater treatment and disposal system on the site, which will serve both this rural retreat use as well as the existing farm winery located on an adjacent parcel. The wastewater system has now been constructed and approved by TDEC. The proposed final site plan is consistent in layout to that shown on the approved preliminary site plan, Bulk and performance standards have been met, as have the specific requirements for rural retreat extensive uses. Staff recommends approval of this final site plan with the following stipulations. 1, the posting of a performance bond in the amount of $72,750 for the wastewater treatment and disposal system. 2, the posting of a performance bond in the amount of $72,100 for landscaping improvements. And 3, completion of an affidavit of compliance to ensure continued adherence to the Division 4400 BB of the 1988 Williamson County zoning ordinance and the approved site plan.
Thank you, sir. Questions of staff or comments? Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Prepare to vote. Vote now. Don, you're not locking in, Bob. Record the vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 20. Preliminary plat review for Chardonnay Phase 2 containing 50 lots on 65.55 acres located off Clovecroft Road in the 4th voting district. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm going to be reading from a slightly revised staff report, and that's in front of you this evening. A revised site plan for this development was approved by this body at the August 2012 meeting. The applicant is now requesting preliminary plat approval for Phase 2 of the development, which contains 50 lots and approximately 33 acres of open space. The preliminary plat is consistent in layout with the approved revised site plan. Millcrofton Utility District will provide water service, and a non-traditional wastewater treatment system has been constructed to serve the development. Additional wastewater disposal areas are proposed within this phase of the development to serve the additional lots. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the required minimum right-of-way width for interior streets from 50 feet to 40 feet, as well as a design speed variance to 25 miles per hour for a roughly 350-foot segment of Road D. A right-of-way width variance was previously granted for Phase 1 of the development. Staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat as well as the requested roadway variances. In conjunction with final plat consideration, the following items shall be addressed. 1, the applicant shall initiate construction of the second entrance located on Wilson Pike prior to recording of the final plat for the 26th additional lot beyond the 78 originally approved, which will be the 104th overall lot in the development. 2, prior to final plat submittal, construction of the wastewater disposal system sufficient to serve the number of lots proposed must be completed and approved by TDEC, and certification by the design engineer that construction has been completed in accordance with the approved plans must be submitted. 3, prior to the submittal of a final plat for any additional lots beyond the 78 initially approved, a bid shall be awarded by the City of Franklin for the construction of the Wilson Pike McEwen Drive intersection improvements in accordance with the recommendation of the county's traffic consultant. 4, establishment of performance bonds for roads, drainage, and erosion control. 5, establishment of a performance bond for water improvements in favor of Millcrofton Utility District. 6, establishment of performance bonds for the wastewater disposal system and wastewater collection system as applicable. 7, submission of landscaping plans and establishment of appropriate performance bonds for landscaping. 8, execution of a stormwater maintenance agreement and submission of an operation and maintenance plan for stormwater improvements. And 9, submission of the approved final plat in DWG format on recordable media based on the Tennessee State Plan Coordinate System prior to signature and recording of the plat.
Thank you, sir. Questions of staff? Don?
Not a question, I have a statement. I'll be voting against this item, and my reasoning for voting against it, I don't believe more traffic should be put out on Wilson Pike until the improvements are made on the road.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Any other comments? Is there a motion? Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? I see none. Prepare to vote. Vote now. Record the vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 21 is withdrawn. Agenda item 22 under other, excuse me, is establishment for bond amount for landscaping for Auto Clinic of Franklin, located on Old Carter's Creek Pike in the 2nd Voting District. Staff?
A site plan for this use has been reviewed by staff. Staff is currently awaiting corrections to the site plan prior to approval being granted. However, due to the cost of installing the required landscaping and pursuant to Division 7300A2 of the 1988 zoning ordinance, the landscape bond must be established by the Planning Commission. Staff recommends the establishment of a performance bond for landscaping in the amount of $26,000.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion? Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Prepare to vote. Vote now. Record it. Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 23, revised fee schedule. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With the adoption of the new zoning ordinance, it's now necessary to develop a revised fee schedule for several reasons. The new zoning ordinance has different nomenclature as it pertains to certain processes. For instance, site plans are now reviewed under 2 categories, minor and major, thus requiring 2 levels of review fee. Second, this proposed schedule will correct a discrepancy between the old and new zoning ordinance fee terminology. Addition 23.1 provides a comparison of the current proposed fees. It is noteworthy that the current fees were, with several exceptions, established in 1988. When compared with the review fees charged in the region, they are among the lowest. While this is not an entirely adverse finding, the current review fees simply do not cover such overhead-related items as legal advertisements, transportation to and from sites to post, public hearing signs, and/or to inspect the site during review by staff in preparation for the various meetings. The proposed increase should go some distance toward covering those types of expenses. Moreover, when comparing these proposed review fees with those currently assessed in the region, it is found that they still would fall within the range of average for the region. Attachment 23.2 describes proposed fees for traffic study reviews. The new zoning ordinance has established different thresholds of review related to the number of trips generated by the proposed use and the subject zoning district where the proposed use is located. Additionally, the new zoning ordinance assesses these fees to the applicant. The proposed review fee schedule was developed as a result of a request for proposal issued by the county. 3 firms were pre-qualified to conduct these reviews on an as-needed basis for the fees depicted therein. In practice, this type of traffic study will be identified at the pre-application meeting. The fee would then be due and payable when the project is submitted for review. All in all, the revised fee schedule seen as an opportunity to more closely align our fees with those charged by other jurisdictions in the region and to better offset the overhead costs that accompany these reviews. Staff recommends these revised fee schedules be adopted and forwarded to the County Board of Commissioners for enactment.
Thank you, sir. Questions of staff? Comments? Jack?
Don't charge for a sign permit. I know that's something that just irritates the stew out of me in Davidson County on those signs. I can't even change an item on there without having my sign guy pull a sign permit. And I think it's about $150, but I may be wrong. So my question is, why do we not charge for a sign permit?
You want to irritate everybody in Williamson County?
Yeah, I guess I will pass it on, but.
Well,
Sounds like a good start.
Yeah.
Historically, and it's something Lee Sanders and I have discussed on and off, historically, when the ordinance was adopted in 1988, we were essentially doing outreach. We wanted to make sure that the clutter along the roadway was handled. And so we took the tack, that, why charge for sign fee, for sign permit? Come in, show us what you're going to do. We say it's good to go. If there's something out there that doesn't match, then we'll talk to the folks whose sign it belongs to. I think it's a good practice because we still have a lot of county out there to cover, and I think it's been a successful program because I think anybody who was here in '88, anybody who sees it now can see that the clutter isn't nearly as ubiquitous as it once was.
One follow-up on that. Also on the zoning ordinance map amendment, and Christie, this is where I was going earlier. Current fee's $100, the proposed fee's $300. If the county commission passes the amendment, how will that increase the cost of this map fee, and will this new funds cover that?
It should, it should, in the case in front of us tonight, for instance, that these fees, the current fees are in place now. The new fees would be in place in a couple of months. If any amendment, be it a map or a text amendment that is originated with staff, with this body, or with the county commission, then that would be no charge.
Right, yeah, I would understand that. And that was my question, if a developer came in. And then to follow up on that, I mean, can you charge per, like one time I had an auction sale, and the auctioneer came in and said, well, we're going to charge X number of percent for what we sell. and which that's fine, that's not where I was going. But then I had to pay all expenses, all advertising, just every little thing. And so therefore I didn't know if those costs could be passed on, or
theoretically, any of them can. Developing a fee schedule is always kind of difficult because you're trying to look at two things, and there's a philosophical question. To be honest, the fact that these fees should have been looked at some time ago. In fact, I got kind of walking orders to do that about 5 years ago by the budget committee when I was in. And with the downturn in the economy, we thought that was probably somewhat inhospitable to be raising our fees when everybody couldn't get those in. I did two things when I developed these. I approached it two different ways. First of all, I did look at the region, and I looked at about 18 communities, including our current fees. The median and the mean were very close in this region. Meaning Nashville and the donut counties around Nashville. The median for a rezoning is $350. We're charging $300. Some of these others, like we're right on it with the special use variance and appeal, because right now we collect $30, but that barely pays the cost to drive to the site and back the 2 trips. And so it's always kind of a balancing act. My own personal philosophy is we work for the taxpayers of Williamson County, whether or not they are developers, whether or not they're regular citizens, and our time, is why we're up there. If we have 35 items on a planning commission agenda or 15 items, our job is to serve that public. But we would like to recoup some of the overhead expenses because nothing costs the same as it did in 1988. I wouldn't think, except maybe my opinion, but.
And then one other thing, I noticed you got here nothing on the building permits, and I guess that's a sliding.
Yes, sir. It's based there, and what I did was we still have some other fees we're going to be sorting through later on, but the building permit fees are mentioned in the zoning ordinance, and for consistency's sake, I wanted to put that in here. But you're absolutely correct. It is a sliding fee.
And a re-inspection fee on is that still $25?
Yes.
And that won't change?
Not right now. I know Mark has asked me to look into that, but again, with the first time Mark asked me to look into that, being Mark McMillan, we were in kind of a downturn, and I'll be honest, it just didn't seem like the appropriate time to be raising fees when people were struggling to get by. That is something that came up. I know there was an article earlier this week regarding what another jurisdiction this county's doing for that. And there is something of a problem, but it's not insurmountable at this point, and we can take that up at some future time. I frankly would, there's a feeling that there's perhaps an excessive number of re-inspections, but a feeling isn't the same as going down and looking at how many times we're actually charging it and what is it actually costing to drive to those sites and like that.
Well, and I had a complaint on that. They were supposed to pour concrete, and it was raining, so they couldn't pour. And they called to cancel, and they said, "Oh, he's already left the building. We can't cancel." And in the day of cell phones and all,
Well,
I didn't quite understand that.
Well, I would say anytime something like that comes up, I would urge anybody just to let me know because, that's not the goal of doing that. I think the case in point is when you find the inspectors perhaps providing a punch list for what needs to be done in order to pass the inspection. That I think, and frankly, that's what I read the article in the paper, what the other jurisdiction was dealing with. Now, if there's a circumstance where it's beyond it's beyond control and it's reasonable, we can be reasonable on things like that. And and that's just a case of making sure that that's understood and I can make my folks understand that.
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
Anything else? Holly?
I just had a question. I mean,
Go.
I know with special events, excuse me, because we do, a lot of those out in Leapers Fork, that we're now going to pay a $50, permit to do that. But does an auction come underneath a temporary permit?
I think you got to go into the table here. There's the only special events we're going to be charging for will be the ones that require a public hearing.
Okay.
That's, and that would be the extensive events.
Okay.
Because, our concern was, again, this isn't about covering overhead.
Right.
Is what, and that was sort of the spirit in which these were drafted.
Anyone else? Your motion? Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Prepare to vote. Vote now. Record the vote. Whoa. Paul? I know. We got to put some WD-40 on your voter. You get it? Record the vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item last is an agenda item, Bell Vista Section 3, preliminary plat. Where is the applicant? Bring yourself up here and explain your position, please, sir.
My name is Joe Mills, developer of Bell Vista Phase 3, and we request that you all consider a extension of the preliminary plat this evening.
Any changes?
No, sir.
Same thing?
Yes.
Previously approved?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Your motion?
I would recommend any motion to accompany. We would, I've passed before you the conditions the last time this plat was, preliminary plat was considered, that we would renew this plat subject to these conditions being satisfied. That was shown in this action statement. Pardon? Well, if you want me to, I have a pretty good voice.
I know.
I could sing it.
Let her go, bro.
Okay, the conditions include establishment of performance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control. 2, establishment of performance bond for water improvements in favor of HB and TS Utility District. 3, establishment of performance bond for sewer collection system. 4, submission of landscaping plans and establishment of appropriate performance bond for landscaping. 5, the payment of $467.50 per lot as mitigation funds in lieu of roadway improvement. And 6, execution of stormwater maintenance agreement and submission of operation and maintenance plan for stormwater improvements.
Questions? Comments? Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Prepare to vote. Oop, voice vote, non-agenda. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion to go home. Thank you. We are adjourned.
Joe.